tonight we're going to be making this little canvas. Now, I hope you can see that. It's not completely dry. I did use the stickles on the holly berries, and then when that dries, I'm going to splatter it, just hopefully. My name is Carol Adams. I'm an over splatterer. I will confess, I always do too much. So what I went ahead and did is I painted the edges of my frame black. Now, if you want to, you could definitely wrap your whatever you're using, your paper, around the edges, but I chose not to do that and just leave them plain. So I'm just tearing strips, tearing some long strips. I'll do this in thirds. I'll tear some straighter strips. Do one and kind of tear it in half. I'm going to point this down. I'm taking my Mod Podge. Let me make sure that you can still see everything. I think you can. And I'm just going to dip it in here. I'm going to give this a good coat. And I did find, for some reason, I didn't get enough on the corners. Because I did several. So I actually went over it. And I'm just going to trim off the edges. Come on. And I'm going to give a coat on the bottom and a coat on the top. Now, if you've got some air bubbles, take a credit card and gently, because you don't want to tear your paper, gently smooth this out. As you can see, it's overhanging. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this off. Now, you can either take a sanding block and sand this off. I did find it was a little harder to sand than, say, a napkin. But it does give it kind of a rough edge. Or I just took my scissors and I just trimmed it off. It's easier to do it this way. And then if it messes up the black frame, we'll just paint it. Just touch that up. And I'm going to take a little bit of gesso. I want to kind of calm this background down just a little bit. Or you can use gesso or white paint, whichever you want. And I'm not doing a thick layer, I'm doing a thin layer, almost a dry brush, just to kind of tone that down just a little bit. Okay, so see, that's all we're going to do. This is Hooker's Green Basics, Liquitex Basics. This is just the Folk Art Cardinal Red. This is really small. I don't know if you can see this or not. This is really small bubble wrap. Just paint it on there. Put this down, and I'm just going to turn it over. And I'm just going to place it in several spots. Whoop, one of them popped. No rhyme or reason to where I'm placing it. I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I'm going to stop right there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some circles with this tube. I have a tube here. So I'm not using any kind of fancy tools. It's just things that you probably have around the house. Okay? So I'm just going to stamp with this. Stamp here, maybe there, and there. Then I'm going to take this smaller one. So I'm going to do some more just smaller marks on here, just like that. And I'm kind of leaving this blank because I'm going to be putting some words and the holly leaves. Okay. Now I actually went to my Cricut machine and cut out a bunch of holly leaves. But like I said, I did make a template. If you are interested in getting one, I'll be glad to send it, and then you could cut out these yourself. Okay. So what I did is I just took my leaves and I used this Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in the fine, and I just went around each one in black. Just kind of around the edges there. And then just kind of a swoosh up the middle. I don't even know if you can see this. I didn't want it to be a real heavy line. I mean, it's real faint. Then for my beads, I'm going to do the same thing. I kind of hold the end of it or the edge of it with my finger. And then I just circle around like 2 times just to give it a little bit there. So I'm going to take my Posca pen, make sure it's writing, and I'm just going to do like a little half moon shape here. Just a little something to give it. It gives it just a little bit right there. Okay, so for the leaves, I'm doing 4 dots just anywhere. And then I'm doing 4 or 5 on the other side. And where I did that little swoosh, I'm going to do a little swoosh with the white. So just like that. And then I'm going to let this dry. The last thing I want to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of some stamp. And for this one, I use numbers. And I'm using my archival ink. And I don't want it to be real good. I don't want it to be real strong. So I'm just doing a little bit, and it's just going to give just a little bit more definition. And I don't even know if you can see that or not. Okay, so we're going to add our leaves, and I am doing this exactly the same way as I applied the paper. I'm just using the Mod Podge to apply this. Making sure to give it a good coat to make sure it sticks. I'm just going to start with my first leaf here. Place it right there. Do a coat on top. One. I'm going to do Oh Holy Night, and I'm just going to place that right there. And once again, I cut it out and just traced around it and did some little squiggles on it just to give it a little bit of oomph there. And then when all of my Mod Podge is dry, I'll go back I'll go back with my Stickles. This is Stickles Stardust. And I know it's really hard to see, but it just kind of gives it a little bit of shine. That's all there is to it to make this cute and adorable 4x4 mixed media Christmas canvas. Thank you so very much for watching.